Sometimes we want to style a part of an element, like the first letter or the first line of a paragraph. This is where we use pseudo element selectors. Let me show you how they work. So let's define a paragraph with some dummy text. Now we want to style the first letter of this paragraph. So I've selected the letter L. Now let's bring up the command palette and wrap the selection with a span element. So we have a span. Next, we can give this span a class like first letter. And then we can go to our style sheet and define a rule for elements with this class. Here we can set the font size to 140%. And we can also make the font bold. Okay, so here's what we get. That's pretty nice. You have seen this style in a lot of books, right? Now, this first step here was completely unnecessary because in CSS, we have a bunch of pseudo elements for this very reason. So I'm going to delete the span. Now, back to the style sheet. Instead of this class, we're going to use a pseudo element selector. So we type P to target paragraphs. Then we type double colons followed by first letter. So we use double colons for pseudo elements, but a single colon for pseudo classes. What is the difference? Well, we use pseudo elements to style a part of an element. In contrast, we use pseudo classes to style an element in a particular state, like an anchor that is hovered. So let's save the changes. Look, we get the same result as before, and we didn't have to add a span to our markup. We have another pseudo element for selecting the first line of a paragraph. So we type P, double colons, first line. Here we can set font weight to bold. Now look, the entire first line is bold. Now if we select some text, by default, the background of the selection becomes blue. We can change that using a pseudo element. So we type P, double colon, selection. Here we can set the background color to pink. Now, the background is pink. However, this style is only applied to selections in paragraphs. So if we go to our markup and add a heading, and then select this heading, the background is still blue. So to make this rule more flexible, we can remove the element type, and now any element that is selected will have a pink background. So let's save the changes. There you go. We have another useful pseudo element for inserting content before the content of an element. Let me show you what I mean. So back to our markup. Here we have a paragraph, and here's the content of the paragraph. What if we want to insert something before the content of every paragraph on our page? We go to our style sheet and type P, double colon, before. Here we set the content property to, let's say, ... Let's see what we get. So now we have ... before the content of our paragraph. Let's right-click on ... inspect it. So here's our paragraph. Let's expand it. Do you see the pseudo element? Colon, colon, before. So this pseudo element is like an element that is inserted into the DOM, but it's not a real concrete HTML element like a paragraph or a span. It's a pseudo element. Now, the content of this element is just ... but we can apply any other styles here. For example, we can set the display property to block, and this will convert this element from an inline element to a block level element. Remember the differences? A block level element starts on a new line and takes up the entire available space. So now, back to the browser, this pseudo element that we inserted is a block level element. It has taken the entire available space, and as a result of that, our paragraph starts on a new line. So with this pseudo element, we can insert some content before the content of an element. Similarly, we have another pseudo element called after for inserting content after the content of an element. So if we save the changes, now ... appears at the end of our paragraph. So if you have multiple paragraphs, every paragraph will have this new content at the end. So this is all about pseudo elements in CSS.